The crash had left the valley in silence. Only the faint hiss of cooling metal broke the still air. Smoke rose in thin gray ribbons, curling around pieces of wreckage scattered across the black glass ground. Eli Trask dragged himself from the twisted remains of his escape pod, coughing as he pulled off his cracked helmet. His medic's badge was half burned, the red cross barely visible. The human medic had been through worse before, but not like this. He had fallen behind enemy lines, or at least what used to be enemy lines. The war between humanity and the Valkyran Empire had been cold for months, each side watching the other from behind the stars. Now a mistake during patrol had thrown him right into the middle of their territory. His shuttle had been hit by debris from a passing skirmish. Eli's suit computer blinked weakly, showing low oxygen, damaged nanogel reserves, and a warning. Unidentified energy readings nearby. He sighed. Perfect, just what I needed. He checked his pack. 1 medkit left, 2 water capsules, and a half-charged plasma pistol. Not much for surviving on an alien moon. He started walking toward the ridges, hoping to find a signal, any sign of life, or maybe even wreckage from the Valkyran ship that could give him cover. But instead, he found her. Half buried in rock and ash lay a figure unlike anything he'd ever seen. She was tall even while collapsed, her body covered in dark silver armor that shimmered faintly under the weak light. Strange, glowing marks ran along the plates like veins of blue light pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. One of her arms was exposed where the armor had shattered, and from that wound flowed a strange liquid. Not blood exactly, but glowing blue plasma like fire trapped under skin. Eli froze. His training told him to keep away. She was clearly Valkyran, and worse, judging by the armor, a warrior of high rank. The Valkyrans were known across the frontier as proud, relentless, and extremely dangerous. But she was dying. He could see it in the way her breathing faltered, the light in her veins dimming with each second. Something inside him, the part that had taken the Hippocratic Oath long before the war, wouldn't let him walk away. He dropped his weapon and knelt beside her. "Easy now," he whispered, though he doubted she understood. Her eyes snapped open, golden, fierce, and untrusting. She tried to raise her other arm, but the effort made her gasp. Eli lifted his hand slowly, showing no weapon. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm a medic. I can help." She stared at him, her jaw tight. Her language was sharp and musical as she muttered something he couldn't understand. He only caught one word, repeated twice. "Human." "Yes," he said carefully. "Human, doctor." He tapped his badge, hoping she'd get the idea. For a long moment, neither moved. The wind whispered through the broken rocks. Then, with a faint growl that sounded almost like a warning, she nodded once and fell still. A silent permission. Eli got to work. He pulled open his medkit and activated the nanogel. It shimmered silver, crawling like liquid mercury. Normally it was meant for human wounds, but he hoped it could adapt. He cleaned the injury as best as he could and began applying the gel. The moment it touched her skin, her body jerked. The blue glow surged, the gel changing color, from silver to faint blue, then deep violet. His scanner beeped wildly. "Whoa, easy, easy," he murmured, holding her still. "It's adapting to your biology." "That's a good sign." The alien woman clenched her teeth, her breath uneven, but she didn't pull away. Slowly, the bleeding stopped. The nanite stabilized, weaving a faint film across the wound. Her heartbeat, or whatever the alien equivalent was, grew steadier. Eli leaned back, exhaling. "You're gonna live." Her eyes opened again, still golden but now softer. Her voice came out low, rough but understandable through her translator implant. "You helped me." Eli nodded. "Yeah, guess so." Before he could say more, the ground trembled. Distant thunder rolled across the horizon. Not natural thunder, but engines. He looked up and saw 3 bright trails slicing through the clouds. Valkyran drones. The woman sat up sharply, her strength returning faster than human logic allowed. Her eyes burned brighter now, and when she pressed a device on her wrist, a pulse of blue energy spread across the valley like a beacon. "Wait, what are you doing?" Eli said. "Summoning my guard," she replied coldly. Eli's heart sank. "Your guard? Your military?" Her gaze fixed on him, unreadable. "You should not have been here, human, yet." "You saved me." The wind roared as a shadow fell across them. A massive ship descended, its hull shaped like a blade of light. Alien troops emerged in perfect formation, kneeling as they saw her. Eli stepped back, realization dawning too late. The soldiers wore the same glowing marks, but none dared meet her eyes. One spoke, his voice trembling. "Your Majesty, we thought you were lost." Eli froze. "Majesty?" He turned to the woman he'd just healed. She stood tall now, her armor restored by self-repairing nanotech, her wound gone. Her expression was calm, regal, and distant. The soldiers surrounded Eli instantly, weapons raised. Before they could act, she lifted her hand. "Stop!" The air seemed to obey. Every guard froze. She turned to Eli. "You healed me without knowing who I was." Eli blinked, heart hammering. "I just saw someone bleeding. Didn't think it mattered." For the first time, her lips curved. Not quite a smile, but something close. "Among my people, to touch the royal blood is forbidden. It kills most. Yet you live." "I'm full of surprises," he muttered. She stepped closer, her eyes glowing faintly. "You saved my life, human. For that, I owe you one in return." He tried to speak, but a soldier approached and whispered something urgent. She nodded, then looked back at him. "You will come with me. My ship is secure. You will not be harmed." Eli glanced at the towering soldiers, then at her. "Do I really have a choice?" "You do," she said softly. "But if you stay here, you will die." He sighed. "Fine, lead the way, Your Majesty." Her eyes flickered at the word, but she said nothing. Moments later, they were aboard her flagship, an enormous vessel pulsing with alien light. The corridors were filled with soldiers who bowed as she passed. Eli followed, still dazed. Everything about the ship seemed alive, its walls breathing faintly like skin. She led him to a wide observation chamber overlooking the stars. "This is safer than the surface," she said. "You will remain here until I decide what is to be done." Eli frowned. "Until you decide? You mean I'm your prisoner?" Her voice carried a quiet strength. "No, my guest. You have earned that much." He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "This day just keeps getting stranger." Her golden gaze lingered on him a moment longer. "You healed me without fear," she said quietly. "Perhaps humans are not as weak as our stories say." Eli looked out at the stars beyond the glass. "And maybe you're not as cruel as ours do." The queen didn't answer. She turned to leave, her cloak flowing like liquid metal behind her. But before the door closed, she spoke again, her tone almost gentle. "You saved the Queen of Valcora. Eli Trask, remember this day." Then she was gone, leaving him alone with only the hum of the alien engines and the silent realization that his act of kindness had changed everything. Eli woke up to the sound of humming engines. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. Then the silver walls, the glowing blue lights, and the soft vibration under his feet reminded him he was aboard an alien warship, deep in Valcoran space. He sat up on the bed the Queen had given him, though it felt more like a guest cell. The air smelled faintly of ozone, and the walls pulsed with a rhythm that matched the ship's heartbeat. When he touched the metal, it felt warm, almost alive. The door opened with a soft hiss. A Valcoran guard entered, tall and expressionless. "The Queen requests your presence," the soldier said, voice filtered through a translator. Eli sighed and stood. "Lead the way, big guy." He followed the guard through long corridors. Everywhere he looked, Valcoran soldiers stopped and stared. Some curious, some clearly angry that a human was walking beside them freely. He could feel their hostility like heat on his skin, but none dared touch him. When the doors to the main chamber opened, the sight took his breath away. It wasn't a throne room in the human sense. It was more like a living cathedral of light. Columns of glowing crystal stretched toward the ceiling. Streams of blue energy flowed like rivers across the floor, and at the center sat Queen Kalira, radiant in armor that now looked whole and shining. Her golden eyes turned toward him as he entered. "You slept well?" she asked, her voice calm, smooth like distant thunder. "About as well as someone surrounded by aliens who could vaporize him in a blink," Eli replied dryly. Her lips curved slightly, the closest thing he had seen to a smile. "You have courage, human." "I respect that," Eli folded his arms. "Why am I here exactly?" "You could have dropped me off near human space." Kalira stood, her tall form glowing faintly. "Because you healed me," she said. "And because your medicine did what our healers could not." "You mean the nanogel?" he asked. She nodded. "Our scientists studied it. It fused perfectly with my biology." They cannot explain it. They say your creation is alive, Eli frowned. It's just smart tech. Adaptive nanites that fix cells. Her eyes softened. You call that simple? She walked closer until she was standing only a few steps away. Among my people, we believe everything has a spirit. Even machines. Perhaps your human machines saw something in me worth saving. Eli wasn't sure how to respond to that. He had treated hundreds of soldiers, but never an alien queen who talked about machine spirits. She looked out the wide window at the stars. Tell me about your people, Eli Trask. Tell me why you help even your enemies. He hesitated. Because that's what makes us human. We don't always do it for reward or safety. Sometimes, we just do it because someone needs help. Kalira tilted her head, watching him with a strange expression. Strange creatures, you humans. We rule through strength. You rule through compassion. Yet you have survived every war thrown at you. Maybe because we mix both, Eli said with a small smile. We fight hard, but we also heal hard. For a long moment they stood in silence. Then the ship shook violently. The lights flickered. Sirens wailed in the alien language. Kalira's eyes narrowed. Enemy fire! The rebels have found us. Rebels? Eli repeated. She tapped her wrist device, showing a hologram. A swarm of red dots surrounded the ship. They are Valkorans who refuse to follow me. They seek to destroy the throne. The ship jolted again. Kalira gave rapid orders to her guards. Eli could tell from their tone that the battle was bad. Explosions echoed through the halls and smoke drifted from the ceiling vents. She turned to him. Stay here, human. Not a chance, he said, grabbing his med kit. You'll have wounded. Let me do my job. Kalira studied him for a heartbeat, then nodded. Very well. Stay close. They ran through the corridors together, the sound of battle growing louder. Alien soldiers carried their injured comrades, blue energy leaking from armor cracks. Eli rushed to them, applying nanogel, sealing wounds, shouting instructions to confused medics. At first, the Valkorans didn't trust him, but when they saw their queen's soldiers breathing again, they obeyed his words without question. He guided them with calm precision, patching up what alien medicine couldn't. Kalira watched him work through the chaos. The sight of a human kneeling beside her fallen warriors, saving them without fear or hesitation, did something to her heart she couldn't name. When the enemy boarded the ship, the queen herself joined the fight. Her armor glowed like fire as she struck down invaders. Eli saw her take a plasma bolt to the shoulder, but she didn't stop. She fought like lightning, her presence commanding awe. When the last rebel ship exploded outside the window, silence finally returned. The corridors were filled with the groans of survivors and the hum of emergency lights. Eli leaned against the wall, exhausted, but alive. Well, he muttered, that was fun. Kalira approached him, her armor scorched, her eyes steady. You saved many of my soldiers, she said softly. Even when they doubted you. I just did what I could, he said. You did the hard part, she shook her head. No, you showed them something greater than victory. He frowned. What's that? Mercy, she said. And mercy is rarer than war. She looked at him for a long moment, then gave a signal to her guards. Prepare a ship, she said. Escort him to the human border. Eli blinked. You're sending me home? Kalira nodded. You do not belong in our war, but your name will not be forgotten among my people. He hesitated. I never even knew who you were when I helped you. Perhaps that is why your act meant so much, she said quietly. You saw not a queen, but a life worth saving. When the escort ship was ready, she met him in the docking bay. The stars beyond were bright and endless. She stood in front of him one last time, tall and regal. You are free to return to your world, Eli Trask, she said. But if ever the Valkora come to Earth again, remember this. Not all of us are your enemies. He smiled faintly. And not all humans are your enemies either. Her eyes glowed warmer now. You changed something today, human. The Valkora remember their debts, and I, Kalira, Queen of the Dominion, owe you mine. She raised her hand, placing a small crystal disc into his palm. It shimmered with faint blue light. If ever you are in danger, activate this. I will come. Eli looked at the disc, then at her. That's quite an offer. It is a promise, she said. The air shimmered around him as the teleport field activated. He saw her silhouette framed by starlight. Proud, strong, and strangely human in that moment. Then the light took him. He appeared in orbit above a human space station. The comm crackled to life, and familiar human voices shouted in disbelief. "Trask, you're alive! Where have you been?" He smiled, still clutching the glowing disc. "Long story. You wouldn't believe me if I told you." Later, as the stars drifted by his window, he looked out into the black void. Somewhere out there, a powerful queen ruled over an empire of light and shadow, and somewhere in her heart, the memory of a simple human medic burned bright. Eli whispered softly to himself, "Maybe peace doesn't start with treaties or fleets. Maybe it starts with one wound, healed." Far away on her throne beneath the golden banners of Valcora, Queen Kalira stood in silence. In her hand she held a human-made nanogel vial, the same kind Eli had used. The faint silver liquid caught the light like a star. She turned to the stars and murmured, "When the humans call, I will answer." And for the first time in Valcoran history, the queen smiled.